Chapter 6. A New Normal. The world was strange, alien, and unrelenting. Yet, somehow, Ichigo and Orihime were finding ways to survive. Well, survive and not kill each other? A few weeks spent in this bizarre dimension had forced them to adapt to the changes in their bodies. But adapt didn't mean accept. Every morning brought a new wave of awkwardness, irritation, and, more often than not, humor. Ichigo sat cross-legged by the campfire, glaring at the glowing alien moss that Orihime had somehow learned to turn into a passable soup. It wasn't the soup that was bothering him, though. It was the fact that his chest was now pressing against the inside of Orihime's pink shirt, a shirt that barely covered his midriff. "Do these clothes ever stop being uncomfortable?" he muttered, tugging at the hem. Orihime, now dressed in Ichigo's baggy pants and shirt, which was beginning to look less baggy every day, glanced up from her bowl of moss soup. She smiled innocently. "I think you look nice." Ichigo shot her a glare. "Nice? Orihime, this shirt doesn't even cover me. And these shorts?" He gestured to the tiny blue shorts he was wearing. Shorts that felt more like underwear than actual clothing. "How do you walk around in these things?" Orihime tilted her head, genuinely curious. "They're comfy. Don't you think they're comfy?" "No," Ichigo snapped, crossing his arms. His chest shifted slightly, and he blushed, quickly uncrossing them. "I feel like I'm going to fall out of this thing any second." Orihime giggled. "Well, you're doing a great job. You haven't fallen out yet." Ichigo groaned, burying his face in his hand. "This is my life now," he muttered. It wasn't just the clothes that were bothering him, though they were definitely high on the list. It was the everything. His body had changed so much that he barely recognized himself anymore. He stood up, brushing off his shorts, and caught a glimpse of his reflection in a nearby puddle. His hair, now long and silky, spilled down over his shoulders, in soft orange waves. His face, once sharp and angular, was now delicate and smooth, with high cheekbones and full lips. His shoulders had narrowed, his torso was smaller, and his waist curved inward in a way that made him feel deeply uncomfortable. And then there was his chest. Ichigo sighed, crossing his arms over the small but undeniably present mounds that filled out Orihime's shirt. He had tried ignoring them, but that was impossible. They were there. They moved. And worst of all, they bounced when he ran. "Perfect," he muttered sarcastically. "Whoa. Just freaking perfect." His legs didn't help either. Long, shapely, and smooth. They looked like they belonged on a model, not a guy who used to fight hollows on a daily basis. At least one thing was easier now. He glanced down at the shorts and his flat crotch, sighing. It was weird, but at least he didn't have to worry about his manhood awkwardly getting in the way anymore. If anything, it made wearing Orihime's clothes slightly less humiliating. Slightly. Orihime, on the other hand, was thriving. She sat by the fire, flexing her arm and marveling at the defined muscles that rippled beneath her skin. Her shoulders were broad now, her chest flat and firm, and her torso was sculpted with abs that she couldn't stop poking at. "This is so cool," she murmured, grinning. She ran a hand over her stomach again, giggling. "I have a six-pack. Ichigo, look, I have a six-pack." Ichigo, who was trying to adjust the straps of Orihime's shirt so it would stop digging into his shoulders, didn't even glance up. "Great. Good for you." Orihime stood up, towering over him now that she was nearly his original height. "You don't sound very excited," she said, frowning. "I'm thrilled," Ichigo deadpanned, still tugging at the shirt. Orihime flexed her arm again, her grin returning. I bet I could lift you now. Ichigo froze, his eyes narrowing. Don't even think about it. But it would be so fun. Orihime said, her voice deeper than it used to be. She stepped closer, a mischievous glint in her eye. I swear, Orihime, if you try to pick me up. Before he could finish, Orihime grabbed him around the waist and hoisted him into the air like he weighed nothing. Put me down, Ichigo yelled, his voice cracking as he flailed in her arms. Orihime burst out laughing. You're so light now. This is amazing. Ichigo's face turned bright red. I'm not light, you're just stronger. Orihime set him down gently, still laughing. Okay, I'll stop. But you have to admit, that was kind of funny. Ichigo glared at her, crossing his arms. Not funny. Later that day, they decided to train together. It had been Orihime's idea. She wanted to test her new strength, and Ichigo reluctantly agreed, mainly because he was sick of tripping over himself every time he tried to move. They started with basic stretches, and that's when the trouble began. Ichigo, who was still adjusting to Orihime's flexibility, tried to do a simple forward bend. His legs wobbled, his hips tilted awkwardly, and before he knew it, he was flat on his back. Are you okay? Orihime asked, leaning over him. Ichigo groaned, covering his face with his hands. I hate this. Orihime offered him a hand, pulling him to his feet with ease. You'll get the hang of it. You just have to, embrace the flexibility. Ichigo shot her a look. Easy for you to say. You're not walking around in a body that feels like it's made of rubber. Orihime shrugged, then turned to the nearest tree. Let's see how strong I am now. She punched the tree, and the trunk exploded into splinters. Wow! Orihime said, staring at her fist in awe. Did you see that? Ichigo stared at the destroyed tree, his mouth hanging open. You're going to kill us both, Orihime. As the training session continued, the tension between them began to ease, replaced by a strange sort of camaraderie. Ichigo was still struggling with balance and flexibility, frequently falling over and muttering curses under his breath. Orihime, meanwhile, was trying not to break everything she touched with her newfound strength. At one point, Ichigo caught Orihime staring at him as he practiced a series of basic stretches. Stop staring, he snapped, his face red. Orihime grinned. I'm not staring. I'm observing. You're using my body, so I have a right to look. Ichigo groaned, covering his face with his hands. This is the worst day of my life. Orihime laughed, sitting down on a nearby rock. You're so cute when you're flustered. Don't call me cute, Ichigo yelled, his voice cracking again. By the time the sun set, they were both exhausted but strangely at peace. Ichigo sat by the fire, staring into the flames. You know, he said quietly, I never realized how strong you are, even before all this. Orihime looked at him, surprised. Really? He nodded. Yeah. I mean, you're always so positive, no matter what's going on. I don't know how you do it. Orihime smiled softly. Well, I think you're pretty amazing too, Ichigo. You're stubborn and grumpy, but you never give up. I admire that about you. Ichigo glanced at her, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he smiled. Thanks, Orihime. They sat in comfortable silence, the alien world around them, humming softly. For the first time in weeks, they felt like they could handle whatever came next.